Okay, we're going to continue on with this evening, and with us now is Robert Nadler, he's a candidate for trustee. And welcome, Robert.
Thank you.
First of all, we're going to go around the room and introduce ourselves, and then you'll have a couple of minutes, to say anything you'd like to say before we open the floor to questions.
Okay.
So there you go ahead.
Sherry Levy.
Margaret Sheets.
David Kurpel.
Michael Shalen.
Jack Sears.
Steve Slater.
Harry Gold.
Mike DeBala.
Rob Nadler, thank you. Opening remarks?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for the invite. I'm very excited about the potential opportunity. Me and my family have lived in Deerfield for 16 years. We've raised our family here. We have 3 boys. Matthew is now a sophomore in college. Adam is a junior at Deerfield High School, and Ari is 7th grade at Shepherd. So we've been here quite a while and have had a great experience in Deerfield. We love the community, we love the size of the community, and it's been great for our family. So very fond of the village, and I thought that running for trustee, I am on the planning commission, as you know, for the last 2 years, which has been a great experience for me. And from that experience, I'm very interested in running for the trustee position and to be an active member of that board. A little bit about my background. I've been in the shopping center industry ever since I graduated college. I graduated the University of Denver with a marketing degree from Boston originally. Moved to Chicago in 1988 for J&B Realty, if you're familiar with the name. They moved me here in 1988. My wife is from Wilmette, so Chicago's been home for a long time, although I still am very allegiance is still with the Patriots and the Red Sox. But so anyway, I'm in the shopping center industry. I currently work for a very large real estate investment trust based out of New York. It's a New York Stock Exchange Fortune 500 company called Kimco Realty. Our website, if you want to look up any information on your free time, is kimcorealty.com. It trades in the New York Stock Exchange under the symbols KIM. Kimco is the largest owner of neighborhood and community shopping centers in North America. We have interests in well over 1,000 shopping centers. These are community and neighborhood shopping centers, typically anchored with discount department stores like Marshall's or TJ Maxx or Target or Best Buy or all of those tenants. We're coast to coast. I'm one of 4 regional presidents. I've been at the company 14 and a half years. This June will be my 15th year there. My responsibilities day in and day out are to run a large shopping center portfolio of over 200 shopping centers between Minnesota and Texas. That's about 28 million square feet, which on its own would probably be placed in the top 6 in terms of REITs around the country. That gives you the scale of the Kimco portfolio. My responsibilities are to run this portfolio, everything from responsibility of the NOI, net operating income, to acquiring shopping centers, to selling shopping centers, to developing shopping centers, to redeveloping shopping centers, leasing, property management, the whole ball of wax. My portfolio is worth about $2.5 billion to $3 billion in market value today. I grew up in the leasing side of the business. I have very extensive national and regional contacts with all major retailers. I serve as Kimco's liaison to our top 100 tenants, so I have personal relationships with every major retailer in the country at the very top of their real estate organization. The reason I'm running is that I've seen on the Planning Commission the value that I think I can bring, given my experience and judgment and enthusiasm for it. And in particular, when you look at a few of the major challenges that we as a village are facing, it's clearly the state of the retail real estate within the community. In particular, Caldwell Corners and the need to fill that center, and Lake Cook Shopping Center Plaza and the need to have that center redeveloped. Since last 12 months, since November of 11, we've lost over 280,000 square feet alone in the village. If you assume that 280,000 square feet would, on a conservative basis, produce $200 a square foot in sales, that translates to $56 million in business. With the village being able to get 2% of that alone, is over $1 million. It's $1.12 million that is lost just from the fallout of the last 12 months. So it's a significant issue, as I stated in the questionnaire. Maintaining a revenue stream in this economy is more and more challenging for ourselves and other municipalities. Clearly, the loss of sales tax revenue has to be a major issue. As a mature village in terms of land area, we're not going to be facing much expansion or annexation going forward, so it's really retooling what we have. The latest report showed a statistic as high as 1 million square feet that was vacant in the village, representing 20%, which means the village has a total, which I was surprised at, of 5 million square feet of space, which frankly is way too much space for the size of this community. And you've had some transitions that's gone on. You've had competition that's been added to Glenview, the competition that was added to Skokie Boulevard. Federal Realty redid their center with LA Fitness anchoring it, which caused the Bally's to fall out on that acquisition, et cetera. So biggest part of my platform is I think the background that I have is unique and is tailored perfectly for what I think are some of the significant challenges that we all will face. And I don't wave a magic wand, and I don't say if I'm on the board I'll fix it all. The market conditions will be market conditions, but I will be very proactive, very creative, very enthusiastic, and I'll bring all my experience and skills, to the table. In my line of business, we deal a lot with legal issues, we deal a lot with architectural issues, we deal a lot with site planning, negotiation. I've stood on the other side of the fence, negotiated TIF agreements with various cities, Calumet City, Matson, Illinois, St. Louis, Texas, et cetera. So I'm very knowledgeable and experienced in terms of what's equitable, what's not equitable. Incentives will be a sensitive issue to the public, but may be necessary in terms of the end result that we want, which is occupied space producing sales tax. And not just occupied space with anything, but space that's going to be productive and that we'll be proud of. Vacancy breeds vacancy, and the longer the space sits vacant, the more blighted it will look. You drive by Lake Cook Plaza right now, it's fairly depressing on that south end of the property. Now they have their own obstacles. They have Sears at a long-term ground lease paying over $1 million a year, and Sears right now is not writing major checks to terminate leases. I know for a fact I have 19 Kmarts in my portfolio alone. But there is solutions, and I think it's been a little bit mismanaged. I hate to be quoted on that, but tenants that have gone to Skokie Boulevard like Trader Joe's or Saks off Fifth Avenue would have been terrific to have obtained, at that intersection. There's probably a little bit of a management conflict. I think Mid-America is managing that property as well as managing our property for an out-of-state pension fund. But when they came to the Planning Commission a couple of months ago and had a plan, and it was a phased plan, and I think if you read the notes, and I actually brought the notes and I'll pass them around, and I brought them only to show you the involvement that I had or the way that I thought things out or the questions that I asked, which I think helps from a self-promotion standpoint show you what you would get if nominated and put on the board here. What else do I want to add? So that's it. I'm a regular good guy, family guy. I've worked hard. I love Deerfield. We're here to stay. The time in my career, the time in my family allows me to serve the community. I would welcome the opportunity to do so. I work well with groups. I'm a team player, courteous and professional to those that come in, and I think I'd represent the constituents in the village very well. So with that, I'll open it up.
I'm going to start this on this side this time around. Mike, you're up.
Okay, so you mentioned in your questionnaire about bringing on someone to
Economic development.
Economic development officer. What can that person bring? Your experience, obviously, working with that. What can that person bring that all of these shopping centers, they have leasing managers. They're trying to fill the space.
A lot of communities, if you do your research, a lot of communities, if you research, will have a person dedicated to economic development. I get calls all the time from a person involved with economic development with, that's being proactive to, not for those particular properties per se, but proactive in promoting the village of Deerfield and why businesses should operate in the village of Deerfield, and the income levels that we have and the buying and spending power that we have, and to be a voice, proactive voice to prospects, to be a liaison with the ownership. How are you doing? Is there anything we can do to help? By the way, you know, we took a poll and everybody thinks Target would be great. Can we send Target anything? Can we assist? Can we send them a mailer? Can we send them a phone call? Can we send them an email that, you know, or even sign a petition that, you know, here's, you know, thousands of people in Deerfield that would love to see you in our community. What can we do to help? Attend the various International Council of Shopping Center events, get information, see what other villages are doing. Make sure that we're competitive. This doesn't have to be a very high-paid job. This could be a $30,000, $35,000 a year graduate, smart kid out of college with a marketing degree that's got a little bit of salesmanship and can, you know, build a budget and a program for us to do it. But right now, we don't have anybody dedicated to it. They may spend, Jeff or somebody may spend a little bit of time here and there if things come up, but I don't think we can sit back and just say, hey, it's Deerfield, it's average household income of, you know, $100,000 and people are going to want to be here. It's a dog-eat-dog competitive world, and I think it would be, I think it would pay for itself 10 times over if we gave it a try and brought somebody in that would develop a marketing plan and be proactive. We have to be proactive. We have to be proactive.
Can we just go back to Target then for a minute? You say you're not naive, you know, you realize with the leases, the ground leases that are in place with Sears and Jewel, how could you make it work?
Well, I'm not going to pretend that as a trustee I can all of a sudden make a Target deal, you know, appear. So the ownership's going to have to take the necessary steps. I don't know how interested Target would be or wouldn't be. I heard that they had some interest. I know that Jewel has a restriction in their lease, and I know that Target and Jewel have been in some major fights and lawsuits actually over that issue elsewhere in Chicago. That being said, I would, you know, if appropriate, meet with the owners and the leasing and the management people and brainstorm as to how we could, together as a village and as a private owner on a public-private partnership, try to attract Target. You know, petitions, you know, someone from the village calling, sending information to the right person, we'd love to have you here. Talking about what incentives we could or couldn't use to help. Maybe we would help incentivize a buyout of the Sears lease if it was tied to a new Target, you know, coming in, or those sorts of things. So you can only do so much, but I think understanding the talk, walking the walk, and knowing the language and the square footage and the site planning and what's involved with it, having a so-called retail expert representing the village on the board, I think would be a tremendous advantage for us.
Thank you.
What are some of the specifics, for those of us who aren't trained in this real estate issues, other than knowing about the leases that are currently on the table with Jewel and Sears, what are some of the other specific challenges facing Caldwell Corners and the Deerbrook Shopping Center?
Caldwell Corners is like plagued at this point in time.
Yeah,
It's been empty for so long and in and out. Most people will tell you it's the visibility that really hurts with that Just Tires being in front, and the access, that right in, right out is very tough to navigate on Lake Cook Road. But that being said, it is signalized, you know, on Lake Cook, and the visibility is really not that bad, on Waukegan, excuse me, and the visibility is not that bad on Waukegan. It needs the right uses. I'm not convinced it can't still be retail and viable retail. But it needs to have the right draws. I mean, for instance, if Trader Joe's could have been attracted to that shopping center, I think it would have put that center back on the map with that kind of traffic. And you add a DSW, and then you pop the Saks off Fifth Avenue, and all of a sudden you get a very vibrant, successful retail center. So it's probably getting the right owner that's got the right wherewithal, the deep enough pockets to attract those guys, and can make it happen. But it's, you know, the longer it sits vacant, the tougher it gets, because perception is that it's, you know, it's broken, so to speak. But those are some of the ideas for it. Lake Cook Plaza, you know, built as a small enclosed mall way back when in the 60s or whatever,
The
and
movie theater.
and like several product of that, it's not kept up with current, and it's gotten hit by the development at down in Glenview with the Lowe's and Home Depot. I mean Lowe's and Home Goods and Whole Foods and Best Buy, and that's part of the reason why Best Buy left, is the transfer of business down to there, and then all the power center, that stuff that got built on Skokie Boulevard, and including everything from the Glen too, that's got the sporting goods store that chips away at Sports Authority, et cetera. So, bottom line is we're probably over-retailed per square foot basis for the size of the community, and what might have been a sub-regional location is now more of a community center location. And it's not going to be it won't be an easy fix. And I don't know if the pension fund that owns it, I believe, what they probably paid for it makes it very difficult for them to kind of double dip in at this point in time unless they've really got a way to recoup their investment. It may take another owner. It may take that they, take a haircut and move on, and somebody comes in that's got more enthusiasm and more willingness to spend money. They can tend to be very conservative, and be risk adverse. This project may take a little bit of guts, some money, working with the village, and to make it happen. But I think the key to it is getting control of that Sears building, because their plan to take TJ Maxx out was fine, put Starbucks in the pad is all fine, move Jewel down, would be fine. Right now, Super Value, which owns Jewel, is up for sale. I mean, that company is in disarray right now. There's no decisions being made, so everything's sort of come to a screaming halt, I think, on that project. I think you could create some outlots. You probably take that Bally's building down, create a couple of outlots, and push the Sears and the Best Buy a little bit deeper back, and so you use up some of that back parking. If you saw the original plan, they were cutting off all that parking in the back and not creating any kind of access through it. So I have a lot of ideas for it. I threw out a lot of ideas when they came in. They kind of ran into a buzzsaw with me when they were there. They weren't expecting the kind of questions and the details, and I think it sent them back kind of regrouping, because, I'm all for incentives if they're equitable and it's going to benefit us and it's going to benefit them, but to try to come in and just, help them pay to move TJ Maxx out of the back to the front where we don't get any additional sales tax revenue out of it didn't make sense to us. I think they were missing the big picture on the fix there. So,
Couple of things. I had a question for you about some of the numbers you mentioned, Robert. You said that we recently lost 250,000 square feet,
yeah,
roughly? And was the total
that's for the last
vacancy?
12 months.
And the total vacancy is around 5 million?
Well, no, the total, here's the report right here, that's fairly recent, and it's 280,000 square feet.
Ah, okay.
Up on top there that we've lost in the last 12 months. And it also cites that if you include the vacancy at Deerbrook and include the vacancy at Caldwell Corners, is 1 million square feet of unoccupied space in the village. That represents a 20% vacancy factor. So if you do the math, if 1 million square feet is 20%, that gives you a gross total of 5 million square feet as an inventory.
But you also said that you thought we were over-retailed?
We are,
And
clearly.
So it
I
sounds
mean,
like
the country is.
So it's like a little conflict.
So,
The country is.
Did the party went on, from, 2008 back, 2000 to 2008, our economy party, and maybe we got a little bit too aggressive, and so how much of this vacancy do we really need? And how much should we count?
I think
as
some
an
of it comes
opportunity?
down, some of it's the interior space at Deerbrook that comes down when that center gets redeveloped. The Sears building alone is 135,000 square feet. The Best Buy was 51,000 square feet. That's almost 200,000 square feet right there between them. Caldwell Corners, I could take a guess, 15, 30, 45. It's probably 80, 100, it's another 100,000 square feet. That's sitting there. So it adds up pretty quickly.
But if we could kind of, just blow it up, in our
Well,
heads.
yeah, I mean,
Could we-
there'll be less at the end of the day. I think there'll be less, but we don't want to give up on commercial and retail activity at that intersection. It's so
No,
vital
not at
to
all.
our.
But I was just curious, I think the economic director is a really good idea, and that would be perfect to chase some of this vacancy. I was just curious, how much of this vacancy should we really think of as some, as an opportunity as opposed to,
I'd
well, we
say,
overbuilt.
yeah, I'd say about half of it probably. I'd say about half of it. You know, I think the Lake Cook Plaza alone is 135, 50 is 180. It's about 200,000 square feet there that's legitimate, you know, good intersection, good visibility. It should be retail, will be retail. Then the Caldwell Corners, in my opinion, add another 100, 100 and a quarter to that.
So should we be looking to rezone the other?
Well,
half?
what we're doing right now actually is, and part of the handout that I brought, if you're familiar, we have, we just passed and is going to the trustees to tighten up the C2 zoning. C2 district is that Lake Cook, Waukegan intersection. And we recently looked at the zoning. There's been some concern about Borders going non-retail and What's Cooking going non-retail. And you know, a lot of those uses would require a special use permit, but on the planning commission, you can't really deny special use. Most of them are going to fit the criteria that's set, and all we can do in the planning commission is look at the 9, you know, criteria to meet a special use, and if it does, you really have to approve it by law, and to be fair and ethical. So, you know, if a guy came in for Borders, for instance, says we want to be medical office, there's really no justification to say, no, we want sales tax, retail, so you can't come in. I mean, it's not detrimental to the neighborhood, it's not detrimental to next door, and you can't really legally say no. I mean, you could get in a lawsuit over, so you have to be very careful. So in your heart of hearts, you might want it to be retail and sales tax, but you couldn't really say no. Lake Cook Plaza, for instance, is, if I'm saying it right, like whatever, is under a PUD. That PUD allows 50% of that property today to be non-retail, which means if they wanted to, they could stick a health clinic in Best Buy, and we couldn't say no to that. So we wanted to tighten those sorts of things up. And so what we did was we submitted 3 or 4 ideas, and I don't want to boast, but I would say that I took the lead in this. So, and I, if you want to read, you know, the minutes and stuff in terms of, I was thinking, well, how do I promote myself, get voted in, et cetera, et cetera. If you read through this, you'll see. If you read through this, you'll see that I was the lead primarily because it's right up my alley. I mean, I do this every day for the last 32 years. But so we're recommending, for instance, that anything between 10 and 20,000 square feet in this zoning district requires a special use permit, and we're requiring that, and we're saying that anything over 20,000 square feet that's first floor, that's not retail, will no longer fit the zoning. We'll change the zoning so that an office complex could not take Best Buy without going through a text amendment to redo the zoning, which would make it very difficult and would give us the ability to say, sorry, no, that's designated as retail. Currently, stores that are 10,000 square feet or greater that are retail require a special use. We increased that to 30,000 square feet in this area, so that if a TJ Maxx came along and wanted to be in there, I know they're in there, but as an example, they wouldn't have to go through the special use permit. So we would make it easier for 30,000 square foot, 20,000 square foot retail user to come in, open up in the village without any hurdles. And we were carving out certain buildings. For instance, we were keeping the 50% level there for the PUDs, but we were carving out the Joy of the Game and the bowling alley because those are non-retail type buildings, and carved a few of those things out. So we're initiating a bunch of things to help protect that corridor in terms of maintaining its retail, primarily its retail presence, and consequentially sales tax revenue, to the village, which is critical to the budget. It's all about finances today. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I don't know how much sales tax we've lost, but it has to be between $1 million and $2 million or maybe more. I mean, Best Buy alone was probably doing $30 million in sales, which is $600,000 a year to the village alone. So it's nothing to sneeze at. It's really substantial.
I'm sorry, why did you say
Best Buy
Buy?
Alone, they probably were generating about $30 million in sales, would be my guess. We get 2% of that, 600,000.
Why did they leave?
They left because I don't know the details. They opened up in Glenview. They're probably they have a longer term, more expensive lease there. They're trying to protect it. And they probably weren't doing enough to justify it, or maybe they had trouble with the landlord, or the landlord misread it and didn't give them the break they were looking for. It could have been a host of things. I don't know the details, but They closed 50 stores. That was one of the 50 that they closed nationally, and there'll be several hundred more coming before it's all said and done there.
Thank you.
Change of subject.
Yes.
Basically, because we've been talking real estate, and I could sit here and I could talk real estate all day too.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. But what are some of the other topics or issues that you see within the town? Because it's going to come up. Everybody wants to talk real estate. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a favorite store
Yeah.
that they want to go in. But what are some of the other issues that you see out there?
I would say, just making sure that we have good communication between the school board, the village, and the parks and recreation. My understanding is those sort of, run themselves independently, and making sure that there's good communication, that, that we're looking at the comprehensive plan as a guide, together and working in unison, so that our decisions and their decisions kind of work together for the benefit of everybody else. I don't, I couldn't sit here and pretend to know all the issues facing it. I'm not on the board right now, so I don't know all the issues that are out there. Whether it's ComEd problems or utility problems, or the sanitary issues that they've had, or some things, or road work. But all I would say is I bring good judgment, hardworking, fairness, to the table, and would try to represent the citizens as best that I could as those issues come up. But I don't pretend to know details of what specific issues there aren't, besides the obvious ones that we've kind of talked about that are out there.
How do you see your role from the planning committee differ from your role as a trustee?
I don't know if I see the role that much different. I think as a trustee, you need to be more visible probably than as a planning commission. Make sure that you're out there. You have a bigger sense of awareness of what the issues are, communicating with the people in terms of what their needs are or what they see, and sort of more of an elected official. You're representing those people versus an appointed position. But I take the Planning Commission very seriously and do my homework, before each meeting, going in, and view that also as representing the interests of the community. So both positions, you're really, representing the people and the citizens, and making sure that sound business decisions, good common sense is being applied, and. But I would say probably need to be a little bit more in the public face as a trustee. Obviously, your decisions are final on the vote and the trustees, versus Planning Commission is a recommending body, and the trustee is an approval body. So there's a little bit more, I guess, authority or bottom line accountability that goes with the position. But other than that, relationship with staff is, similar. Relationship between planning and trustees, I think, are similar.
The shopping center, the new shopping center at Willow and Waukegan and Glenview, what did they do to make that so successful that maybe we have not done here?
Well, they started with raw land. So they started with a vacant piece of dirt and some tenant demand, Whole Foods and Lowe's, and so it's a brand new development. It's easier to develop from the ground up than it is to fix something that's broken, that you're locked into certain site, issues and land restrictions and use restrictions and leases and all those sorts of things. So redevelopment can often be more challenging and difficult than new development. Lowe's would rather be there than right on top of Home Depot. Whole Foods is a duplication, but it's a bigger store down there. So they were just able to attract enough anchors to kick it off the ground, and then with the anchors comes the smaller shops and the restaurants. So that all kind of follows the big guys.
That didn't happen when Deerbrook was built. Is that a different
Well,
time?
when Deerbrook was built, 60s, I'm guessing. I don't know. I wasn't around, but
Different things applied.
yeah, it was a different. That was probably the mall that you guys went to as kids if you lived here, right? I assume the Turnstile was there or something way back when, or I don't know.
Turnstile was there.
So there probably wasn't much else for retail around at that period of time, right?
No,
It
there
was
wasn't.
probably a lot
There
of
were no
cornfields
restaurants.
out here and everything else. So things change, and the one thing about retail is it's constantly changing. I mean, you have to constantly be reinventing and reinvesting, and when you don't reinvest, that's what happens. You know, you're old and you're tired, and the biggest competition is new development, you know, new
that
sexy. And people want to
development
be
is great.
in the new sexy brick, well-landscaped with
Right.
fountain
Yeah.
product. It's just
But that
human
shopping
nature.
center has gone over apparently really big, and it is nice.
Yeah. It's doing
Very
well.
nice.
Yeah.
They have nice stores in there.
Yeah, yeah,
There's also a Home Depot right down the block.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about them not wanting to be on top.
yeah, they probably, yeah.
It doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
If you got a nice mall.
Yeah. Well, they do their research, you know, in terms of where they
Oh, yeah, 'cause they
think they
got
can draw their
Costco in
customers
there,
and stuff.
and Willow there.
Yeah, well, Costco's a little further down, different
Right,
development.
but I'm talking
Yeah.
about the
That area,
development, how
yeah,
they,
that
what
area,
they've done in
yeah, the
Glenview.
Target, the Kohl's, it's the nearest Kohl's to us
Mhm.
really, and the nearest Michael's
Mhm.
to us. So,
Target.
yeah, I mean, and that stuff's all been added in the last 5 years or so.
Right.
So, and then that, between that and the stuff on Lake Cook, which isn't all that old, kind of gotten squeezed, you know, in the middle, to some extent, so.
I imagine it helps that there's, you know, a huge new housing development
That's
right
true.
down there.
Yeah, the Glen,
Glen.
right?
People move into new houses, they're buying a lot of stuff.
Well, and not just the Glen, but that whole corner there,
Mhm.
across from the shopping center.
Mhm.
Those buildings are all basically new, and those are big apartment
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
And Glenview's a bigger town. to
But,
begin
you know, the
with.
Glen itself is struggling, really.
Yeah,
really
they're
bad.
struggling.
The Glen's
The
really
smaller
struggling. That
s-
Sticks
Oh,
is
yeah.
struggling, the Von Mauers, they're all being subsidized.
Mhm.
In fact, I think it was going through foreclosure, that project.
Yeah.
You have really great ideas. I mean, this is your background. It's really great. We have you on the planning commission, which I think we're all grateful for. So have you ever discussed, I'm just curious, discussed any of these ideas with members of the board currently?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. In fact, you know, the notes from the, you know, here's the, I brought this just to show my, you know, my thinking if you read through it and stuff. I don't know if this is appropriate or not, so you can look at it, don't look at it, but, you know, I brought up all of these things, brought up the text amendments, really, I took major ownership of, in terms of refining those and, you know, coming up with the different levels of 20,000 square feet or greater. Maybe that shouldn't be allowed at all, take it out of the zoning, so we don't, you know, we can eliminate the risk of, let's say, a Best Buy becoming a health clinic, you know, without our approval. I also suggested that we align ourselves with the state regulations for things like dry cleaners, that no new dry cleaner that's not already grandfathered in could come in with PERC or the old, you know, from an environmental standpoint, and that we require the updated equipment, you know, that's environmentally, you know, sound and approved at the state level. Things like that. We've gone through the list of retail uses that are allowed in C2, and I had several recommendations there. I gave Kathy a list of all the retail uses that I have SIC codes, so that it can help us brainstorm through that. And we've updated that list, because that was a very antiquated list of uses, some that aren't even around today, and those sorts of things. So yeah, I'm you know, doing everything I can to help out and be supportive and to help educate in that field. And then I learned from my colleagues on where they're experts in. So I'm not an expert in everything. I just happen to, this is my, you know, this is right down my alley. And and most of the issues, a lot of the issues that we faced have been involved around this. But, you know, they're all smart people and good people, and I'm learning from them on their areas of expertise as well. So.
Robert, I have a question for you. Your employer, do they permit you to share the proprietary market analysis information with the village of Deerfield?
No, I couldn't, no, if it's proprietary, no. If it's confidential, no.
Not confidential, but you make your living selling that kind of information to prospective clients of your real estate trust. I was just curious what kind of latitude you might have in sharing some of that great stuff with Deerfield.
I can share all the knowledge that I have,
Of course,
and, you know,
but, yeah.
sales volumes and rents and who's who and what size they take and what their credit's like and are they good or they're not good. I'm not sure exactly what would be an example.
Well, market analysis of trends of, you know.
Oh yeah, that stuff's fine. Sure, yeah, all that stuff's fine.
Like
yeah.
the line chart that you added to that packet that you passed around showed, you know, the 2004, 2008.
That's not mine, actually. That, the village
did that?
village support, that's just information the village went out and had somebody do.
I would imagine that you guys, that Kim, have that subdivided, you've drilled down on that kind of trend
We
line
actually, you
side.
know, brokers will do more of that than we will as owners. We have our own demographic, but we usually would, if we wanted to zone in on that kind of information and take surveys and stuff like that, we really don't do that ourselves. We would go out for that if we needed it. So to take an inventory of, you know, the amount of square footage and figure out how much is vacant and that sort of stuff, and then compare that to national trends and everything.
But you guys are directing client money to certain types of.
It's our money.
investments.
It's really it's the public's, you know, you as a shareholder.
I'm a shareholder of your
Yeah.
REIT.
Yeah.
And you're investing money on my behalf based upon your analysis of what's
Into
selling and what's not.
shopping centers. We're
Right.
investing in shopping centers,
So
right?
that I would think that that kind of information would be extremely valuable to this new marketing guy that.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I could be somewhat of a mentor
Yeah.
to the person in terms
So
of.
mentoring is okay then?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, right, yeah, no question, yeah, no question, yeah.
Question, if you are elected a trustee, you'll be the new guy in the group, right? Do you foresee any concerns or challenges in that position?
No, I mean, I would assume everybody would, it's a small community, it's a small board, welcome you in and fit in. I mean, as long as you don't come in and you're a know-it-all and abrasive and stuff, which I'm not. I may be coming across a little bit like that here, but I mean, I'm very much a team-oriented and courteous and professional and respectful of others. So I would certainly come in as the new guy. It was a very smooth transition for me coming in on the planning commission as a new guy. I didn't have any issues there. I wouldn't suspect any others.
Sort of on that issue, you're strongly in favor of an economic development director and everybody else on the board isn't, then what would you do?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't get done then. So, you know, you can only do so much. You take a vote, it's a democracy, and probably wouldn't get done. I would make the case as best that I could and ask that they consider it. I don't know if that's actually a board thing or if that's something just the mayor can do or how that works, to tell you the truth. I'd like to find it out, but you know, you can just throw ideas out there, support the ideas, listen. You know, I think it's very important when you're on any of these committees to be as good a listener as you are a speaker. It's all about, you know, making sure you're hearing what people are saying and what they want, and then filtering it all in and then using your own judgment and background to hopefully make the right decisions.
I was just curious, with the territory that you mentioned that you cover, or that you're responsibility for, do you do a lot of traveling?
Not as much as you would think. If you're leaning towards, you know, will you have the time or you miss, my attendance has been very good in the planning commission, and it would continue to be very good on the board. Actually, probably a little bit better on the board because I usually don't travel on Mondays when they meet. But no, I don't. I have a few trips here and there. I will apologize up front. I have to be in New York and cannot make the December 4th, is it, town hall. I just have a business meeting that I have to be at. But no, it won't be a problem. There'll be trips every now and then that I have to do, you have to do, but by and large, you'll find my attendance has been very good and will be very good. And I wouldn't go for it, as I said earlier in my opening remarks, the time of my career right now, and with the kids being older and stuff, I've got a lot of, I won't say a lot of time, but I have the appropriate time to put in.
Anyone else?
It's my understanding at the town hall meeting, the candidates make a case to the public.
That's correct.
What's the procedure if he can't be there?
If he gets the caucus nomination,
Mhm.
everybody there will know that he's been nominated and recommended by the caucus, and we'll just have to, you know, make an announcement that night that, you know, due to business commitments, he just can't be there.
Someone told me I think I could have maybe a representative show up to just give some remarks or supportive remarks or something like that, that Rob's unable to attend, but, you know.
I would see if we
but
could get
however,
I would try to see if we could get something taped. I can talk to Dan, and I don't know what precedent's been, there is or not, but if we get you to
That's a good idea.
tape comments,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be that difficult. And
That's
maybe
great.
that would be a better way to represent yourself. I'll talk to Dan about
Okay.
that.
Yep.
Anyone else? Any comments? I think we wrapped it up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.